gonna move quick.
Shall we rise? We will start with the prayer and the pledge of allegiance. Start with the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pray with me, please. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings in our life. Lord, thank you for this community we live in and the opportunity to serve this district. Lord, please be with each and every member here. Give us wisdom. May we always act in the best interest of the students and the faculty. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. I'd like to note that there is a quorum present. The agenda was posted in a timely fashion. Next item is public comments. None. Next item is communications.
No, sir.
Next item is consent agenda. We have the minutes of the June 21st budget workshop special call meeting, the minutes of the June 21st regular meeting, the minutes of the July 7th special call meeting, and the minutes of the July 7th Goal Development Workshop special, the monthly financial report, Region 8 Service Center contract, approved Buddy Offer Disciplinary Alternative Education Program, and approved the 2022-23 Adjunct Faculty Agreement and Detention Services Interlocal Cooperation Agreement, all included. Anybody have any item they want pulled from the agenda or any discussion? Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Gap, have a second?
I'll second.
By Aaron. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Information items.
All right, our first elementary principals report, Ms. Howe. Welcome, Ms. Howe. Ms. Howe has had to hit the ground with her feet running and doing a good job trying to get everything put together.
Yes.
With her feet like almost like Fred Flintstone.
Not expecting to be first. Okay, so you have a board report. There are 3 little small things just for you to know. New and returning student registration was this week. We started actually on Tuesday, so we got a few coming in and out, and so we look forward to seeing who else comes by. Teachers return on Monday, August the 1st for their first day of professional development, so we're really excited about getting started and ready for the school year with them. Meet the Teacher will be on Thursday, August the 4th from 6 to 7. So those are the things we have going on.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Band started practicing this week in the morning and afternoons to beat the heat. We now have 41 band members playing. Mr. Fannin gave me the numbers yesterday, matter of fact, or day before yesterday. The band did a car wash and a bake sale, helped raising money to pay for some halftime meals, instrument parts, music, things like that, to go into their Booster Club portion. He also wanted me to put a plug in tomorrow. They have a little competition at the band, 9 o'clock, if that's not mistaken. So if you'd like to come by and watch that. Also, our new teacher in service was held on Tuesday morning for our 4 new teachers at the middle school, high school. Had Ms. Prager come up, help them with a few things on grade book, things like that. And then just some of our culture, climate things that we have going on. There were several teachers doing workshops and trainings with our new curriculum that's at Region 8 Service Center in Pittsburgh. And there are several of them that like or have said good things about it. There's a lot of information for them. They won't struggle for things, to find things. They're real excited about that part. We had our new student registration that took place on Tuesday. We picked up about 7 right now, but I think we've got a few more possibly coming through. Matter of fact, there was 3 today, I think, that we may end up picking up. Janitorial staff, they've waxed the floors, the rooms and hallways, allowing us to be ready for Meet the Teacher and for in-services coming up. We've got CPR for the new coaches tomorrow. According to Ms. Nisi, Cardinal Camp for the 6th graders on August the 2nd, Tuesday, and then Meet the Teacher Cardinal on August the 4th, and of course our school starting on August the 8th.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, fall camp starts for volleyball and football, Monday, August 1st. Coach has been working this past week to try to get ready for that in the upcoming season. Meet the Cardinals is after Meet the Teacher on August 4th, and Picture Day is also August 4th at 9 a.m. that morning. That's our cheerleaders, volleyball, football, and I think band's also taking pictures that day. It's kind of a media day. We came up with a new heat plan since it's been a little bit warm this year, a little warmer than normal, on some breaks and stuff like that. If anybody has any questions after the meeting, I'd be glad to answer anything on that. Booster Club purchased 2 new items. We got a new water cow for the outdoor sports and new Guardian cap for football. We also have a letter going out to try to recruit some extra volunteers for that. Summer, we had great summer numbers all year long, and we're pretty excited about getting this thing rolling starting Monday.
Guardian caps, those little padded things over there.
The padded hats, you know, the NFL went to them this year. They have to wear them up until in practice up until I think the second or third preseason game, and we bought 40 of them. So every kid that we have in high school will have a Guardian hat on. It's just an extra safety concussion prevention deal. I think Aaron brought it to my attention like a year or two ago.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I saw that one on the news before, they were padded deal, I never heard of it.
Number 7.
Review the 22-23 budget and proposed 22-23 property tax rate. You was already going one.
I decided to get it going, and give me a couple more minutes to talk, you know, I always run out of time. At the end, I'm afraid the trap door will fall open here in a second.
Take long.
I got you. If you look at the second page of what you have, or look up on the screen, this is what we have for 22-23 estimate of our budget. You'll see tax revenue of $821,581. That's about $200,000 additional tax revenue money for the year. Our state money is actually up just a little bit. I thought it would drop with the higher taxes, but I have checked that number with Omar's template. I've also checked it with the TEA statement of funds, and it seems to hold true. So we should have a little extra state money even. Total of $6.5 million for the year in revenue. That's actually up about $600,000 for what we had last year at budget time. You can see the expenses. If you look across that top row, you'll see almost 52% is spent on instruction or budgeted for instruction. That's certainly where we want to focus our efforts. But then also, if you look at the left column all the way down, you'll see almost 70% of our budget is payroll, which is why a month ago we talked about staffing and staffing numbers just to give you an idea of where we were. Total that we've got, not a lot of things different in there except those 4 items at the bottom, but total expenditures is $6,479,000. Leaves us about $100,000 in excess. I got a feeling we're going to probably find somewhere to use that before it's all said and done. But seems like they just keep coming out of the woodwork, extra expenses that we need. You'll see down at the very bottom corner, retention estimate. We've had that, I guess, every year that I've been here, estimating it at $75,000. We are budgeting new money or additional money this year of $40,000 for band equipment. And then the step 23 increase that we've added, we'll add about $15,000 to our budget. We also have added about $10,000 to fund the Guardian program. It's in the security line. It's actually in supplies. I'm sorry, it's in other operating. That 17.5 is in other operating on the security line. Includes $10,000 to fund our Guardian program at that point. Any questions? You want to talk longer? You done?
No, I got a couple of questions.
Okay.
On your with the inflation like this, on our supply side and stuff, how much did you account for inflation?
Well, I increased, and I'll mention this too in a second when I get to food service, I've increased some there, certainly, but increased everything probably, on average, probably 10%. Some areas greater than others. Just before Mrs. Falk left, she asked me to increase the elementary supplies kind of by a set amount, and the day she told us that she was leaving, I asked her, did that mean I could take those back out since she was gone? But they are in there, by the way. I did put her numbers in there. And supplies, but the other thing that's increasing is our travel. Our travel costs due to fuel costs.
Yeah.
We're paying Bowie County Schools what?
240?
Yeah, I believe it's right, $2.40. And a year ago, we were paying, what, about $1.60, something like that a mile. And so we've seen about a 50% increase there. And,
That'd all be covered under supplies, or 6,300?
yes, I believe it is. But anyway, we do have, there are
And just
some,
with our travel, we have talked to our principals and athletic director just about restriction of miles and some of the long tournaments that we may have taken in previous years. We've kind of put them on a 90-mile rule. Anything above that, we really got to look at. So they've done a good job of scheduling back this year with the higher transportation costs, but hopefully offset some of those things.
90 miles and nothing across the Oklahoma line.
Nothing across.
there you go.
That was a extended
And actually, I did, for the athletic side, I took all the schedules for next year, listed every place we're going. And Coach Turner helped me come up with a count of students, even to count meal counts for those trips. And so I trust with that, we've got that number pretty close, but it is a slight
One thing
increase.
that's going to help us some, our Bowie County allotment, because they changed the way we're funded in transportation. The Bowie County funding structure has changed. It's actually going to save us a little bit every year, the way they were going to do that, so it'll help offset. We've kind of budgeted what we spent last year plus, so that'll help cushion some there as well.
Anything else? Okay. Okay, I want to jump to the next page, which it has our food service and our interest in seeking budget. The left-hand side, of course, food service. And last year at this time, when we were budgeting food service, we had no idea what our revenue was going to be due to COVID. We're coming out of the COVID year, revenue was terrible, and we had no idea really what it was going to be. And you can see last year we budgeted revenue pretty small. We budgeted our federal revenue last year, kind of along normal guidelines. Actually, when you see the results of operations for this year, you're going to see our federal revenue blew through the ceiling with the free lunch program that we've had going on. But that's going to stop. And so that leaves us with some more uncertainty going forward. I did go back to pre-COVID to project our local revenue, our student paid lunches, and have that at 46.5. I also took our federal revenue back to what it was pre-free lunch time, because we're just not going to draw that much in federal revenue. And the other is some state money. I'm sorry, it's not state money. The other is commodities, what we get for commodities. Then at the bottom side, you'll see a slight increase in payroll, actually a decrease in supplies. The reason for that is we think we're going to serve fewer meals without free meals. And so our federal revenue for this year is actually going to come in, I think, around $240 for the year. And so with that decrease there, we think we'll see a decrease in supplies. I asked Ms. Debbie kind of for a guess. We've been spending roughly a little under $2,500 a week. We've budgeted $3,000 a week going into next year. So that's about a 25% increase in what we've normally budgeted. The $15,000 in other money, that's not commodities. Commodities is in the federal line. But the $15,000 is what I anticipate we could have to transfer from the general fund to make food service solid for the year. Now, keep in mind, when I show you this number, we need a balanced budget. We're starting the year about 100,000 ahead. So I don't anticipate we'll ever transfer that.
So fund balance, we had a healthy fund balance. When COVID hit, we drained all of it. Over this past year, we were able to put almost 100 back. So if we do go into it, we would use that more so than anything else.
So-
We're gonna have to spend some of that money.
Some of that will have to be spent on equipment or whatever.
In the kitchen.
TDA will make us liquidate it. But nevertheless, I need that in there to balance the budget, but I don't anticipate we'll ever transfer it over there. Any questions on the food service side? Over on the interest and sinking side, you'll see about $1,000 increase in tax revenue and a little less in state revenue. But you'll see also our debt service payments are decreasing, basically due to the refinance of the bonds that we did about 12 months ago or so. And so we're projecting 63,000 in income, 60,000 in expenses, a little over 3,000 excess coming into that fund during next year. Then the last page, and this is really exciting, this last page, we got the information for this at about 5 o'clock this afternoon, but I think it holds pretty true. I did have time to check all the numbers. The appraisal district has had someone in their attorneys, on their attorney staff to check everything. But you'll see our maintenance and operation rate actually can increase just a little bit for the year, which I was really surprised when we got to that number, but we do have a TDA approved number there. Interest and sinking drops. You'll see on the top line, interest and sinking was 407 last year. It needs to be 403 this year. And we actually have a total tax rate of 1.0018 instead of 1.0010, which is what, 0008 increase over last year in all total. You'll see our local revenue is going to increase a couple $100 a student, and our state revenue is going to increase a little under $200 a student. So have about $300 a kiddo increase in state revenue. Keep in mind, the biggest driver to push our revenue up is enrollment. Taxes are going to be forced to stay relatively flat, or taxes compared with state money. So as our enrollment goes up, we'll see our revenues go up. These are the rates that we're going to ask you to propose, the .9615 and the .0403. I also put at your place the actual legal notice that will be posted in the paper in case you want to take a look at that and you might have any questions concerning that. Trapdoor's getting weak. I think it's time for me to stop.
So the proposed rate increase of that 0008, is that 8 cents per 10,000? Is that how that?
I believe that's right. If I can do all those zeros in my head.
If somebody said how much is the increase, it's 8 cents per $10,000 a
Right.
day.
Right.
On that first page, and I might have missed this, you said we had additional 600,000 revenue, but we're only gonna have about 150 carryover after the budget. So the majority of that 450, was that in inflationary increases?
Well, yeah, a large part of it is in salaries. Salaries increased.
Is that step 23, or is that or more than that?
Well, it's step
20
23.
steps plus step 23.
See, of course, every person on staff steps up year to year. So everybody that's here last year, that's still here this year, is gonna cost us one more step in money.
Was that kind of a normal?
Oh, yeah, that's the normal flow. Now, some of that comes back when a teacher retires or leaves the district, and you hire somebody back that's at a lower step than the one that we lost. And so it helps to kind of balance it out. But generally speaking, our payroll cost is going to increase year to year. There's not a lot of way to get around it.
It's a good
Not
thing
a lot of
having
way
more
to legally
experienced
get
teachers.
around it. Sorry?
It's a good thing having more experienced teachers.
Yes, you have a much more experienced staff, and also built into that, and it's not a major player, but you're going to be asked to approve some additional stipends here in just a moment as well. That's budgeted in into that.
So that additional 600,000 revenue, do we think that's going to be a consistent increase, or is this something a one-time?
It'll be consistent until the legislature changes the funding formula.
Okay. But
And
it's not like
I budget the
one-time?
legislature all the time, but it's doing good.
One other issue we do have coming, and we have instructional material allotment, which is some of our IMA funds. We've had to rebudget for some of that. When this last legislative session came out, we had been getting somewhere between $68,000 every 2 years. We got about half of that this past year because it was not a big adoption. Well, we've used that for a lot of other materials that we've used for ongoing instruction, so we've had to budget some of that back into a regular budget item for this next year. Hopefully IMA will be a little better. I know we're going to use some ESSER funds and things to help offset some of that. And then we certainly we'll have other areas that we do have, some base cushion built in just to pad some of those in case we do have higher expenses than we anticipate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. So we would need on that,
Get back over here. Item 8 here. So we need to set a date for public meeting to discuss the 22-23 budget.
Well, we need to propose tax rate.
That was just review, and propose.
We need a motion to propose the tax rate.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I saw review, I didn't see the proposed. Do we have a motion to propose the 22-23 tax rate as presented?
I'll make that motion that we propose the tax rate at M&O being .9615, interest and sinking .0403 for a total of $0.0018.
All right.
Coming school year.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, by Gap, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Now we're on setback. All right, keep me straight. We need to set date for public meeting to discuss the 22-23 budget and the 22-23 proposed property tax.
we'd recommend that we set that date for our next board meeting on August the 25th. That would be at 6 o'clock.
6:30.
6:30, I apologize, 6 o'clock, 6:30.
No action on that, right? We just
So
said
we
that.
got to set it.
Yep, we need to set it,
All right, so we need a motion then?
please.
We have a motion to set the public meeting for August 25th at 6:30.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, have a second? Second. Second, all in favor, raise your hand. All right. Passes unanimously. Consider and approve extra pay stipend schedule for 22-23.
We have, we've got a new stipend schedule. There are a couple of revisions that we would like to look at on that. One being, we've got an opportunity. One thing that we've had some issues with athletically is athletic trainers and medical staff on field. LifeNet will no longer come to our football games. They're not covering games outside of the city. Last year we used the volunteer fire department and they did an outstanding job for us. Talking to Johnny Nichols this year, trying to make sure that we get people scheduled there. But we've got an opportunity with our nurse that we're going to recommend that she is interested in doing some athletic training, and basically what that would be to attend all football games that are varsity home and away, and then all home basketball varsity games. I had Coach Turner kind of look at what that would look like for athletic training stipend. Some schools just hire a full-time trainer. That salary ranges, 48 and up. Some pay a little higher, but we had a recommendation today for a $5,000 stipend for a trainer. We are also looking at adding golf, so we matched that golf stipend with other individual sports, which was at $2,000. we went back and kind of reviewed over other stipends. One that stuck out that we were paying below end was our ag stipend, so I have a $2,000 increase there that I'd recommend. And the last new stipend I'd like to add is an elementary band stipend. Our band director has done a great job of going out and seeking time to find pre-K, K, anybody you can find to try to teach band, and I think that's been an admirable, certainly work ethic, and we'd certainly like to reward that, so I'd recommend that we pay that for $2,000.
So the band director stipend staying the same? or-
Band director staying the same and doing in an elementary band stipend for his extra work above and beyond what we asked him to do. Mr. Fannin is not really aware of that. I didn't know he'd be sitting in the audience today, so. Thank you, Mr. Fannin.
You're gonna start showing up more often.
I was just gonna call if it was approved and tell him tomorrow, so he's sitting and learning about it right now. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We'd already talked about the high needs
The
stuff.
high need stipend, I will be honest, I tried to erase the yellow on there and I could not remove it through the PDF, so it's still on there. We had already approved
I thought we
it.
had.
I just saw it highlighted.
Yes, I could not get it off, so
Well,
I have to get
I
more.
went back at the comparison, I know we done it mid-year or something.
We did that in the summer.
Yeah.
But those other ones would be the additions and changes that I'd recommend.
And can we do that in one motion, or do we?
Yes.
need individual motions?
We could just approve it as presented.
All right, do we, any discussion or any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve stipends as presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, except for one left hand. All right. We would.
Next, we have, I guess the next two would be, what do we got? Our next?
Consider and approve salary schedule.
Salary schedule. So the only changes recommended on our salary schedules would be to add an additional step at the end to full step 23, as we've continued to do the last several years. We'd recommend to continue that for this time. That's already planned in the budget. But as we do this year, certainly are going to continue to monitor that as school districts around us make changes. At some point, we may need to look at, do we continue it one step at a time, or do we need to, do more than that? But right now, I think, adding this at least gives our upper end teachers another step in the past where, sometimes it's set for multiple years without one. So we certainly want to continue to increase as we move. So I would recommend those schedules with step 23. Go ahead. We've got professional schedules, director schedules, and the paraprofessional schedules. Each of those would remain steady outside of step 20. That'll be the change.
That's the only change.
Yes, sir.
Janitorial staff's on a separate deal.
They are actually on the paraprofessional schedule.
Oh, are they?
Yes, sir.
What are they listed at?
They'll be instructional and M&O.
Oh, okay.
So the M&O would be where they are. So instructional would be an A, and M&O, our custodians are on, janitorial staff are on the 237. So when you pull that schedule up at the 237 days, our aide staff and I believe cafeteria would be on the 187 version of that.
Okay.
I guess all the teachers are either on a.
I want to make sure that was included,
Yes, sir.
but not either if it said custodial.
I think we combine those just to make it
Make it
shorter, but we certainly can look at doing that if need be. Go ahead, Aaron, I'm sorry.
So all our teachers are either on a 226 or 187.
Yes, we do have some that have the 10 days that we do pay between that. So we do have, most of our teachers are on that, one of those two. If we do add days for required training, then we may do that at a daily rate. I don't know that we have anybody, maybe one between that. We have one at 192. I think our nurse at the high school was doing 192 to get some additional training days.
We paid just a handful of additional training days with other staff.
day.
we certainly did with, we had several required trainings that many teachers went to that we paid some extra time.
Not a huge number, but still a few.
Any other questions or discussion? Do we have a motion to approve the salary schedules for 2022, 2023?
I'll make it motion.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Gab. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, that's unanimous.
I'm sorry. I gotta get rolling here.
Next item, 11, discuss revisions and approve the student handbook for 22-23.
The only, we have no local revisions. The only revisions to our student handbook for 22-23 were TASB related, anything that changed in either state law or in policy. The rest of our local revisions would stay the same. I have it here if y'all would like to go through anything specific.
We don't really have an option on it, do we?
The student handbook, that's where we have our local administrative guideline. We have a lot more flexibility there.
But don't change
But
it.
I have no changes to recommend.
All right, any other discussion? A motion to approve the student handbook 22-23 school year?
I'll make it motion.
Motion by Terry. We have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
We have a second.
Come on,
Guys,
guys.
raise your right hand. Spread the wealth.
Trying to keep it easy for Mr. Van Dever.
Next item 12, consider and adopt the student code of conduct for 22-23 school year.
Now, the student code of conduct is the, when you adopt it, becomes the board policy, and that one is completely legal and based on TAS's recommendation and strictly state law. We don't put any local interpretations into it, so my recommendation would be to approve as it was developed.
Any discussion? We have a motion.
I'll make that motion. Second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir. All in favor, raise your right hand. Like it.
Be decisive.
Number item 13, discuss and approve the employee handbook.
No changes to the employee handbook.
I was about to make the motion.
The only changes to the employee handbook have been to update staff personnel names and dates.
Any discussion? Do you have a motion to approve the employee handbook?
Let's make that motion. Second now.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
About time. That's our table, puss.
You gotta get you warmed up for the adjourn. Pull some.
Get involved.
All right, number 14, consider and approve the Mott ISD teacher appraiser calendar for 22-23.
We have attached that. This is for our T-test and evaluation system. We'll start August 1st and gives the dates for observation periods up to the written summative. We recommend that we approve that calendar.
Do you remember have any questions or discussion on the teacher appraiser calendar? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second the motion.
We have a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. No. Okay, unanimous. We're rolling. Number item 16, consider and approve the staff development minutes waiver.
Did we miss one? 15. Teacher appraisal.
Oh, my bad. Item 15, we will back up. Consider and approve teacher appraisers for 22-23 school year.
Our primary appraisers at the elementary would be our new principal, Miss Elizabeth Howe. And secondary would be Joe Wyndham. Alternative appraisers would be Miss Sanders or myself. I would recommend we approve those appraisers.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Now they're making y'all a little bad.
That's good.
Consider and approve the 22-23 district improvement plan as presented by Mrs. Oh, wait. I get ahead.
Almost, Miss Sanders, not quite.
No more checks. No more checks. Hold off on the check mark. Consider and approve the staff development minutes waiver.
We filed for a waiver. We've done this the last several years. This waiver will allow us to count up to 2,100 minutes of instruction for our professional development, and then we allow those days within our calendar. So we would recommend, we have to have this approved and then submit to TEA. 2,100 minutes.
Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff development minutes waiver.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll say.
I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
I've been tearing with my little live very long.
Tried to put a check in.
Now we're on 17.
No, it's just.
Come on up, Miss Sanders.
Like it's in the size of it.
Check again. I can't-
Oh, my little.
Just got a hit on that one.
I got hit. I can't
You
back up.
couldn't get back in the room.
I just didn't know if we're up to the second man or where we're gonna throw his hand up.
All right, so this is pretty much the same type plan that I present to you every year. There's a few things that look different. We had, right here started, they're auditing a lot of the state comp programs. So for us, we're all one campus, and so we've always had to just do one plan instead of a district plan and a campus plan. We've just done one. But they are requiring now that even though we still only have to do one plan, we have to put in all of the campus guidelines and all of the district guidelines in our one plan. So that's kind of the main things you'll see that is different. On page 3, this is pretty much breaks down the money that is listed in our plan from our budget this year. These are the different codes that are required to be in the plan as far as how we're going to spend this money. So here's our federal budget summary and then the state budget summary for this coming school year. So
We have worked also, Ms. Sanders has been working with a consultant to help make sure that our plan is up to par. And they'll continue to make sure that we have everything that we need and that it's addressing the needs of our kids.
And I'm not going to go through every strategy that we have, but our first goal on here is that we will provide a well-rounded instructional program for all students to enhance achievement, access, and equity. It'll just show you all the different things that we have listed as our strategies to help us achieve that goal. A lot of this is just disaggregating our test scores, testing students in the lower grades if they're struggling. We have intervention that we provide for them. A lot of this is focused on catching kids quick before they begin to struggle and trying to intervene as early as we can on getting them some help. So you can look through and see the different strategies that go under that. It also talks about some staff development that we do for teachers. We have at our middle school and high school, if a kid fails the STAR test or the EOC, they go into a class to where they're going to have tutoring until they take that test again. So if they pass the test at Christmas, then they can come out of that class. But they will be in a class for extra tutoring. Let's see. It's new. Pretty much everything in here is stuff that has been in here in the past. I don't really see anything else, anything we've added into the program. Like we said earlier, we do have a new curriculum that we are doing this year, so pretty much every teacher on campus that teaches a core class will be doing a new curriculum through a grant that we received. So some of that is listed in here as the trainings that we've offered and the new curriculum that we'll be doing. Let's see. We do offer training, which is required on crisis management, teacher, classroom management. A lot of that there is required training our teachers do, and they all do that at the beginning of the school year. All that required training is in there. Our second goal talks about our family engagement and the different activities that we have that we try to include parents as much as we can throughout the year. So the next part of the plan just talks about the different things that we have, like Meet the Teacher, booster clubs, financial aid workshops, all the different things that we have for parents. Talks about our website, our different ways that we communicate with parents through our reminds, through our one-call system, the different like Veterans Day. So it just lists through here the rest of the objective in goal 2, all the different ways that we do try to involve the community with the school. And then our last goal is to provide a safe and secure environment. And this is something that has been something that's been a lot of work this summer due to the things that have happened recently. But we also list the different trainings that we're doing for teachers. We are doing the ALICE training at the beginning of school, which is, in case there is a shooter on campus. So that's what our last goal is just the different things that we do to provide a safe environment here at school. And then the last part is the 13 at-risk indicators that are required to be in there. We have to compile a list every year of our students who are considered to be at risk of dropping out of school, and that lists the 13 ways that they can end up being on that list. Most of ours are, if they fail a STAR test, they're on that list for that year. If they've been retained, if they've been to AEP, they become pregnant, those are the different ways that they are on that list, and then we target them to make sure that we are helping to make sure they don't drop out of school. So that's what that is on the last page of that. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion before we move to approve? Do I have a motion to approve the district improvement plan as presented?
Make a motion to approve the district improvement plan as presented.
I have a motion, I have a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Aaron, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Gotcha. All right, discuss and approve safe return to in-person instruction continuity of services plan.
Our ESSER grants require us to review this. We did review this at the end of school. We have reviewed it again before the beginning of school. These are our COVID protocols and return back to school plan. I have no changes to the plan that we approved at the end of school.
Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the safe return plan. All in favor? Unanimous. Item 19, discussion of the guardian plan guidelines.
We have approved the overall board policies. We discussed briefly some of the guidelines that we'd like to look at, so I'd like to discuss these as a finalized application. We did put out a call to our staff for those that are interested. I've probably had a handful of those that have come back in that were asking some questions about the possibility of moving forward with it. But you can see the guidelines here that you must be an employee, LTC. I have contacted a psychiatrist that will do our psychological exams. Have to be approved by the superintendent and get written authorization by the board. Must complete an initial training. That training will be 24 hours of a DPS approved Guardian program. And then you must agree to carry or abide by all of our policies and state laws. Of course, it is voluntary. Any of the concealed carry campus handguns will be approved by the superintendent. We've got the acceptable calibers there. We can certainly restrict those to specifically what we decide would be acceptable. We just need to know that it meets the guidelines, and then with Chief Rochelle that he knows what is being brought to campus. This is confidential and cannot be disclosed, not only by the employees, but as a board and administrators. We don't need to allow people to know who that would be. And then we can certainly restrict when they have access to their concealed carry. We will provide the ammunition. Currently, we're looking at using the frangible duty ammunition. And you can see there that at any time the board or superintendent may revoke or suspend the written authorization. We have approved that guardians can carry on physical school property, that both here and at school sponsored activities on our ground grounds as well as if need to in transportation. That'll be approved by the superintendent.
Basically, where we have these different calibers here, that's the broadest, but we can.
Yes,
we can narrow it down.
I can restrict what they can carry, brands and types. Again, if it is specific, we've talked about that reimbursable, to meet that. If we need a handgun to be able to meet that, the district can reimburse up to the cost of that. Our attorneys do feel strongly that it is recommended that we allow the individuals to purchase and not the district to purchase.
Do you require one to have
Yes, everyone will have to go through that. I talked to the same one that does the police for psychiatric evaluations, does the same as what an officer would have to have. I discussed there, it's about a half day time that you would go.
Aaron be giving them.
No.
You talk about maybe making a allotment for a weapon.
Yes.
What kind of restrictions we're gonna put on that as far as, hey, I wanna do this, I buy me a weapon and I don't wanna do it, I'm gonna keep a weapon. We don't pay. I don't foresee that happening, but that's a scenario that could very well happen.
Very well could. We may need to get to a little bit.
Or move districts, right after, within the same.
There are, and I don't know that we have it specific in here, what we can do. I did read and have a discussion with the attorney if there is some restrictions we could put back on that. If when they leave and they have to
Yeah, we don't want to
pay back or,
but,
let me find out more on that.
prorated cost or something.
Just period of time of service.
Yeah.
Legally.
Very good question to that.
Yeah,
Or maybe not at all, maybe that's, I don't know.
yeah, but that's.
I can get more information on that. We can certainly look at what that would take.
With the fluctuation of our staff, coming and going with the turnover we have.
Absolutely.
Also, up here on item E1E, talking about the training. I know you mentioned a certain type of course at
Yes.
24 hours. You're leaving that just blanket in case it changes, or we don't want to put nothing in stone as far as the amount of hours, or?
What we'll put in those DPS, that is a legally required amount of time that they have to do that. And then it's very specific on a DPS approved course on what it would be. Now, they could change that. So we would leave
Every 2 years, they like.
DPS that you'd have to, you're required to complete an approved DPS, and basically it'll be to who we want.
Okay. All right. So,
We're not going to allow them to necessarily go out and choose their own. It's going to be our training with our people and who we approve.
we as a board can change this at any time.
We as a board, we as a school district, however we want to put it. And that's why we're leaving it as guidelines rather than going into any kind of policy to give us much more flexibility. If for some reason something comes up and we're like, yeah, that's not what we like, we can redo it at any time. Just like our student handbook, basically is what this would become.
On number 9, they gonna have any documentation as far as they are under the Guardian Plan, like passenger transportation? Like they get stopped?
They'd have to have their LTC, and then they'd have to have that written authorization.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something necessary, that if an officer or somebody stopped and would want to see that.
If they got it in the school vehicle, I would,
But that, they cannot carry unless they have the written authorization from the board.
On that 1C, it seems like we got two completely different categories here under one. We got the psychologically fit, then we have qualifying with the handgun each year thereafter.
Separate that out.
That just seems like
Yep.
not something that would be on one.
We can change that and have it separated.
That's a good point, that they do it each year, I'll make sure it's,
Yep, I'll put that down with maybe with training.
or just a different letter item. And that was good.
And so the back side of that is just basically, I've read this, acknowledged, and would be the employee signature. And then from that point, once they've completed all of the requirements, we would be able to recommend and then give them authorization.
they gonna qualify once a year or twice a year?
We'd have once at this point for the qualification. And then you'll have to when you re-up and do those plans again, that training again, you'll have to re-qualify.
So every summer you qualify,
Pretty much.
you need the program.
So you gotta do that every other year.
We do two of those for the month.
We would just do one, but it would be. Any other discussions on that? I'll make the changes that you requested, and I'll find out more information from you.
Okay, I just,
Any other discussion or questions? Or motion to, we're just
Yeah, we just had to discuss on this.
Back up on
and
it.
Yep, we can move forward with it, and we'll start, I'll start the program, those that are interested in doing an interview and discuss, let them know what these are going to be, and that we feel comfortable with their experience to get started.
We through with that?
Yes, sir.
So move on to 20, discussion of school safety.
Just overall school safety, we had some discussions last month. We've got several updates. One, we have moved forward with the artificial intelligence. We have signed, and they are starting to work on putting those things in place. We'll have 50 cameras that'll be enabled. We went with a company, Omni Alert. So not only the AI piece of that, but also a mass communication that's integrated with it. So at the first detection of any kind of threat, once it's verified, that would then enable the mass communication to computers, cell phones, classroom phones. We're still working on whether it'll integrate over the intercom system we currently have, but it will at least call every classroom phone that we have in there. So anyone that's got one will begin ringing through those on their computers, smart boards that they're enabled. So we're going to actually have training in the morning over, start putting that in place. We have also enacted and are working on installing a new anonymous reporting system. We've been using one that we locally developed. This one will actually be app-based, web-based, and gives us an ability to have a two-way communication. So if someone does report something anonymously and we still have questions, you can actually have a conversation in which they remain anonymous and it never says any information with it. So hopefully that'll be just another tool. We certainly have it for any kind of bullying or hazing or events that may be taking place on school, but we also know that in most of these cases of threats or violence, somebody knew before it ever started that could have reported. So we're going to enact that. That'll give us more opportunities and more tools for our community and students to be able to have those discussions. Behind, we've got kind of one of our demo stations we talked to. We're still working with the company on some software issues on it, on how many they can hold. Their current software will try to make sure that it'll hold enough that we can put those in the classrooms. They're supposed to have an answer by tomorrow on whether or not their software will be able to hold what we're trying to do. We have completed our exterior door audit. We've reworked 3 doors. I have Swords coming out to look at just give us an idea that we can have discussions on some of our doors that may be aging out, what it may take. The glass doors we talked about on the science wing, what it would take to put something different on those. So we should have some more information with that coming. We've also completed our partial safety audit, which was 50 questions from visitor policy to our locked door policy to make sure that we have policies as far as our emergency operations, and then door locks, lockdown shades. We have those in. We have not installed those, but they're out here. Those we ordered those. Those are in, so those will be on before school. And then John has installed those door barricades through the elementary and through half of the middle school at this point. So we were able to test those. Once that's engaged, you're going to have to break through the door really to get that out. So I do think it's going to be just another piece that we can use to go through that. Officer Rochelle is evaluating any kind of additional tactical equipment he may need, as well as window punches that we talked about for classrooms and any other safety equipment that we could put in. He's also got us some idea of what it would take for the JPX gel guns. They're about $350 a piece. If we want to use those to put those in those safes in the classrooms. about what it would take to get into one, I think, from someone here locally, which is about as good a price as I found. So he's getting us another idea of what that would be from somewhere else. But that's kind of where we're at with those. Any other discussion or questions you gentlemen have or would like to talk about? Cafeteria attending. We've got them, they're on it. It'll be a few weeks before they can get here. It'll be probably mid-August before we can have that where it's one way. I did have someone come out with digital graphics just to look at front way windows. And we talked about putting something there if we were going to do it, maybe make it a little bit more visual appealing than just the one way. So they've given me some ideas of what that would take. We'll start moving that way. We can be able to easily see in between that.
Next item to consider and possible approval of security fence purchase.
We talked about security fence, and we looked at out here with the gates, and we had prices for chain link. I did get a price. I still have one company's price, and are trying to get a second bid. I've had companies here come out and another one out of East Texas, and some that have just told me they don't want to, I guess they don't need the business. The one price we had, it's about $60,000 difference to go to iron. It was in the 180. 182 would be to do full iron across the front between the elementary buildings back here, and then we still had chain link back here on that playground where it was going into chain link, and a little bit of chain link there. It was back there behind that. That price is the fencing itself. Access controls would be, we do have KLCs come out and look at what it would take to put access controls on multiple gates. The 2 gates and then multiple walk-through gates, that was 37 and some change, and we are waiting on an electrical bid on what that would take. But, you know, total prices out of that, you know, you're looking somewhere close to $250 if we were to do the whole thing in that iron. I do want to get at least a second price to see where we're at and working on that. I was supposed to have one today, but it hadn't been turned in. I did notice he's emailed me, so it may have some stuff in there, but I hadn't really had a chance to look at it. But that's kind of where we'd be at the difference between that. So I think the chain link was at 115 was the black vinyl chain link, so that's about the difference to go to the iron. I've certainly looked at it. I do think if we do, particularly here in the front, that iron's going to be probably the better way to go. It's going to cost us more, but it'll be, 1, more difficult to get through. 2 is going to be more visually appealing, and it's going to work better with the gates once those are put in place. So there'll be 2 24-foot gates, automatic with a call push button system on the other side with a door badge access, so our employees can get through there as well. Now, back here in the elementary, we kind of framed some things out. We can adjust some of those things back just to reduce, you know, where they get in, and that may cut some of those gates and electrical. We've got a little bit of room, so I think this is kind of top end is what we're looking at. But I don't know that I'm ready to recommend for approval tonight. We will, 3 to 4 weeks for materials is what it's going to take. But I would like to consider if I get those bids in time that we come back maybe and do one before the end of August.
Put it on the agenda for the August one.
Well, I'd like to look at possibly doing a special meeting between now and then to order. If we get all that rather than waiting till the end of August, because then that'll put you almost into November by the time you get it done.
I mean, are we okay with this number, whether it was this or 50,000 less? I mean, I am, but
You're asking me if I'm okay with.
I'm asking us, as a board member.
Well, I mean,
That's
is
what
it gonna
makes
last
button
longer?
everything up.
Is it gonna last
Even
longer?
if it saves $50,000, I'm still.
Is it gonna last longer?
Just what we want.
The only
Come on,
place,
iron.
only place with iron would be between here and.
Be here, and then you have iron where the elementary drop-off is between those 2 buildings.
Oh, okay.
Right in there, that's a small section of it. So back here would still be 6-foot chain link. Because we're going from this building to the elementary playground, which is chain link, there's really no, and then it's tying into chain link on the back. So we just kept all of that as a 6-foot chain link around that side of
You're
it.
talking about where the drop-off is, just.
Between 3
just
and 5, just that section.
Just that covered area.
Just part of it, it's really just between the 2 buildings. Just to keep someone from being able to easily walk behind all that.
Yeah, if we was gonna do that, why wouldn't we put it in between the gym and the building on the backside?
We would, there what we have is
Also,
chain link
GM
is what we have back on the backside of it. would be the 6-foot chain link going to that, and then to that next fence.
Like 6 foot.
That's what we had
Okay,
planned.
go put chain link back
Yeah,
there.
back behind it was just gonna be a chain link area to keep people out. We'd had to iron just because it was easy with the gate, since we're gonna have to iron the gate anyway.
Okay.
We went ahead and added that on this side.
Understand.
Behind that building would be chain link going back and then to where the pre-K playground.
For some reason, I thought, well, we're just gonna leave that wide open.
Mm-mm. No, no.
I'm good.
Yeah, and like I said, back there, behind there, I've got it drawn up where it's actually going from behind the 5th grade to the elementary gym where the 2 doors would be included as well. But that may be a little more overkill. You could just put it between the gym and the elementary, cut down on some of those gates back there if you wanted to.
I'm sure, pretty sure.
But that's top end, if we wanted to do all of that in, we certainly could do that. But that's kind of what I have quoted in there, but we could back off of that if necessary.
Yeah, that's good.
But we do need to get at least, probably at least one more to meet our legal requirements and bidding processes and make sure all that.
Sounds good.
But I would like to, if I can get that,
I just want to make it happen.
get back and do a special between now and the end of August.
So, just first question, could we give approval up to this price, and if you come back, if you have to find a lower price and you think it's the way to go, you can roll? Or would you prefer to come back and read?
I would, after visiting with our legal team, I would prefer to come back.
Okay.
I think we may get into some audit issues and things there. If we approve one vendor and we went with someone else, we'd have to come back and redo it. It's just gonna be cleaner if we wait, and if y'all don't mind the time.
Do you think another week we'd have a meeting?
I got those emails today. It may be within a week.
All we gotta do is take it.
Yeah, we don't have to take action tonight.
Yeah.
I went ahead and put it on there because the guy promised me he'd have it to me by yesterday, and he didn't. I got it today, this evening, but I hadn't really got to look at it.
Was that the guy we really want to use?
So you'll probably have it done.
And then,
Well, I've got another one that we all won't name any names on camera. If you guys would do that, I would certainly appreciate trying to come back.
You gotta have a motion,
and
Dave.
do more. No.
Take it away.
All right. So we need everybody to be available to come back,
Yes.
try to find a time where everybody be available. I'd prefer not to wait a whole other month.
no, yeah, as soon as
I
we
don't
get
want
ready,
to wait,
let's
but
make it happen.
I apologize, we haven't got enough to get it done, but
Not for
Get
lack
that
of,
soon.
for lack of your efforts.
I sure hope we'll be ready. We'll have it soon,
We're closer than we were.
very close. All right.
Item 22, discuss STAR assessment results.
All right, we briefly talked about these last time and kind of went through them. I know you guys like to see not only ours, but I've printed out just some comparisons for just schools and areas, randomly picked a few. These go by each grade, so it'll go from 3rd to EOC. You can see mods there, roughly, usually right there in the middle, but just some neighboring districts that you can kind of look at and get an idea of where we were relative. Again, district-wide, when we looked across it, we saw lots of areas that we were very excited about and very proud. We had some really good scores for where we have been to where we are now. But there you can certainly see and just take a look through some of those of where we compare. I would say we got some retesting scores back today. One area when we look at our high school and particularly our Algebra 1 scores is an area that we've been scoring below some of the state regional averages. We got our ELC retesters this summer. We have, how many kids we have? 8 take it? 6? 6 kids took it and all 6 passed it this summer, 100% passing over the summer. It's the first time we've had that, so I would say that our new math teacher did an outstanding job over the summer.
Even got a meets in there.
What?
Even got a meets in there.
Took a kid that didn't pass it from all the way past approaches to me.
Skip 2.
97% of approaches on 5th grade reading.
Yes. So certainly when we look at this, we look at approaches, but we've really been trying to focus more in that meets and masters category. That's really where we hadn't been doing as well. But you can see as we look across here, certainly highlight our Our fifth grade scores, are in really good positions. But when we look back, our sixth grade scores relative, you look at that sixth grade reading and sixth grade math scores comparatively, we're scoring at the top of those that I just showed you. As well as seventh grade, you can see where we were in reading and in math, both in seventh grade. We're in really good, in pretty good positions, particularly with reading. And then we go into that eighth grade bunch. Feel good about, for the most part, again, in reading and in math, we're right there in competitive. Even our social studies, that's an area that when you see that score, it kind of makes me look at eighth grade social studies, but when you compare it to those around us, we're still, it's not where we want to be, but it's certainly, you can see everybody else getting scored there as well. Either it kind of puts it back in there that we are at the regional averages, even though we weren't real happy where we were.
Well, these schools with a lot higher number too, that one score doesn't affect them as much.
You're right.
Look at Redwater, job number 1's 83, beat 60 masters.
Do what?
Just look at some of these scores.
Yeah.
So that just gives you a comparative as we talk about what we've had. Sometimes we just give you raw numbers, and raw numbers doesn't always tell the whole story, so that'll just give you some. I said I just picked a few of these surrounding areas that we know the schools, so overall I feel like we were in a pretty good place. We've got a few areas that we need to work on, but we certainly have made progress. And, that's a testament to the teachers we've had, to our administrators. Given COVID, we've certainly, where some schools are going backwards, we've certainly made good strides.
Pretty good.
Feel free to look at those.
Any questions, any other discussion? Move on, number 23, consider and approve policy update 119 local, and discuss legal policy.
So we've got multiple legal policies that have been updated. For the most part, there's about, I think there's 12 local policies. Most of these are all in respect to either legal changes or into the second session of the legislature last year. So we certainly recommend that we approve those. We have looked at them as we put together our handbook. There are several things that we're going to have to add over the next couple of months and have you guys approve professional development plans. And there's some how do we do our financial aid at the high school, so there'll be some things that'll come back based off of these policies, but I do recommend that we approve the TASB policy 119.
Question, discussion. Have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, have a second?
I say.
Second by Ryan, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Superintendent's report.
All right, summer maintenance, we are close. School starts, teachers are back next week, so our custodial group has done a good job getting things ready. Air Now has come out and serviced all of our HVAC units. We had a bit of a haywire incident over this past week with some software and some of the Pelican thermostats that are in the middle school, high school, and the tech building. They did some crazy stuff. That group was out all day yesterday. They've got that stuff working, and it was working good today, but it was kind of, something happened on Sunday in the software and it went nuts. We've got it squared away currently. Things were much better than that, but we did have several units that were not operating correctly over this past week. Yes, their software, I don't know what happened to it. They don't really know yet either. We're trying to get an answer, but several things got changed in some configuration on Sunday, middle of the day, and because we have heat pump units, which are pretty efficient. But if that configuration changes, when it was calling, the thermostat's calling for cool, the mechanical unit was actually turning the heater on rather than cooling it, so then it was jacking the heat up in those rooms. So we had a whole issue, particularly in the high school, that we couldn't fix. We had to get into, now that we know where to go and do that, we can make that, make those changes. So we're really trying to figure out why that happened. But that was really kind
Going
of
to school around, they offers a free sauna service.
we
I was
did.
about to say, did we put some rocks and water in there?
Hey, I promise you, if you'd have gotten a couple of those, it would have It was bad. So it's been a frustrating week, but I will give them this. They've come out. I do believe we're on the right track to get that working. Other than that, everything should be ready to roll for next week. Our cafeteria floor, that tile in there, I know we've talked about this before, we've got some kind of foundation crack that's going across there, and that ceramic tile is starting to buckle and come up. One section of that, as long as we have our lunch table on there, is pretty flat. You pull those lunch tables out of there, and that tile's starting to buckle and come off of that. I did have TMG look at it when they were here last week, or not last week, last semester, and they basically told us it could be, with that ceramic tile, it can be very little, but it's so brittle and I guess just tight that it doesn't flex. So any little bit of flex in that concrete can start making that pop. So we do have some kind of foundation issue that's going on, and really the only answer to get to it is to start pulling all that up. Right now, we're not going to do that, but at some point, I know we're looking at our facility committees, but that's an issue that we've had before. But right now, there's a section that was probably 20 foot across when they pulled them tables up. Just
That'd be a good spot for like an expansion joint, put some concrete.
maybe. But you can look, if you look right out the window, and you can see the crack and just follow it across where all that is. So there's something that's under there that we're going to have to evaluate.
Big room.
We could. Right now, we're using a big cafeteria table.
There you go. Big area room.
Cover like a cord cap.
So, right now, there is no trip hazard, there's not a safety issue, but that was brought to my attention yesterday. Student meals, the free meal is over, so that is something I know Debbie sent out to all our parents, because my wife said ugly things to me about that we are now going to have to pay for meals again. That the waiver expired. Did you? People weren't real happy, they liked that free lunch. Although there is no such thing as a free lunch. I learned that somewhere. But it was nice last year to have that. So we're back on that. We are keeping our second breakfast at this point. That was really successful last year. We'll see how it works this year when Mosul may have to pay again.
Who decided that's what's causing the inflation?
May have seen that balance in that fund balance. But safety and security meeting, one of the requirements that we are to have from the state of Texas was to meet, which we already had a meeting that we planned on doing in the summer. We meet 3 times a year, typically once in the summer, once in December, and then once again in the spring. But we did hold our meeting on the 20th. We had several community members, parents, law enforcement, just to go through our active threat, active shooter. We got some good questions and follow-up. Chief Rochelle has followed up with several of those questions as far as incident command. Just talked to Bowie County, who would be in charge if they did respond. There is a tabletop exercise that is now scheduled for Bowie County. That was a question that came up, so I got the invite, I think today, for that. So we'll certainly be attending those, Chief Rochelle and I, just on how the countywide response would be. Board training, I've got these flyers. We are going to host another board training here at the great Maud ISD, so y'all don't have to travel. It is on that schedule.
Save that mileage.
Save some miles and some time. And get your hours. Some people need hours. But in that training, there are, like every year, there is a new school safety training that will be required for board members. TEA has been working on that. I do believe it is published. I will get more information for each of you on that, but each of you will be required to have that new school training. You do not have to tackle, but you might. You can come Wednesday and you can watch shooters being tackled. So again, Region 8 also has that connectivity where you have the hub and you can do online trainings if needed, which that's where that new school safety training will be. And then any of the other required trainings that we have to do, cybersecurity, child abuse awareness, etc. So y'all take a look over at that. Collegiate Edu Network, sent out the survey link. I got some surveys returned, not all. They're going to give us through the end of the week, but I told them, give me a little bit more time. If you haven't done that, please take the time. It doesn't take very long to do it, but it's just overall kind of what the opinions are of the district. Once we have that enclosed, I have a meeting scheduled with their regional director for us to sit down and start going through those for what the next steps. That P-TECH model we talked about does take approximately a full school calendar year to start planning. So that would be the stages that we would move into next. And the last piece, facility committee meeting, we have scheduled for August 23rd. And I'll be sending those invites out this week. That's all I got.
That's it, that's all you got.
That's it. We've moved fairly quickly for such a long agenda.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. We're going to be discussing personnel according to Texas Government Code 551074. Discuss and approve or consider hiring recommendations of the following personnel: school LVN, instructional coordinator, and resignations from employees. We'll go on executive session at 7:46 p.m.
Had a really good conversation.
We are back in open session
This is the
at
third real conversation we had with y'all.
8:32.
All right, are we on camera?
We are on camera. We're back in open session at 8:32 p.m. Next item on the agenda is consider and take action on contract recommendations for hiring personnel. First item is LVN. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we hire Kara Sutton.
Have a motion to hire Kara Sutton. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second to Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next item is the hire on instructional coordinator. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we hire Mandy Breyer.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous with one abstention, Aaron Breyer. Next item on the agenda is resignation. We have a motion to accept the resignation.
I'll make a recommendation that we accept I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation of Ella Byrne, right?
During? Yes, sir.
Byrne.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. We have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Get something out of Bailey. Oh.
Yeah,